Hello there, very good morning to you. Thanks so much for still staying with us right here on Good Morning Ghana live on Metro TV. My name is Harriet Anati. While the show still continues, it's time for us to bring you what is happening in our community and also the people that we look up to. Now, young folks have been advised to work smart and hard enough to attain their goals. Ben Dotsei Malor was speaking to my colleague Torgbor-Ashong. Let's take a look at the clip.
Ben Dotsei Malor is this ordinary guy who grew up in a village in the Volta region called Ohawu, who by the grace of God was doing quite well in school, ended up in Kata Secondary School and Maoli School for Sixth Form, University of Ghana, University of Glasgow. And by some strange design, which I can only attribute to God, ended up at the BBC in Bush House in London for more than 10 years, and now at the United Nations, striving to do good, striving to work hard, to excel in whatever I find myself doing. I believe in hard work, and another part of hard work is smart work. First of all, I grew up with a mother who was a widow. I was 8 years old when I lost my dad. So there was that constant thing within me to try and be helpful to my mother. At the back of my mind, that was always there. Then number two, so you go to secondary school, you are in Kata Secondary School, you come back home on holidays in the village in Ohawu, and you want a link with the outside world. And for me, that link was a radio set. I usually borrowed a radio set from my senior brother, a half-brother, who was kind to let me have the radio. So I would fiddle with the dial to connect with the world. So I got hooked to the BBC out of passion. So even though I was pursuing science courses, on the side I had this passion where I was constantly listening to the radio. As a way also, I didn't know at the time of my English improving, because as you absorbed whatever was coming from a station like the BBC in that village, you were absorbing excellence and how to get things right. I have to say, though, that I still struggled with spoken English. Right. Even when I was in Kitasco, from 1 to 5, my spoken English wasn't that good. Some of my friends teased me in those days when you was speaking bad grammar. I guess I'm still striving to, get my English right. It's a constant quest. And then you continue to strive and to improve. I ended up in the BBC accidentally. I would hear something, maybe like in these days, there are crises in the world. I would voice my ideas or outrage about something maybe happening in Myanmar or DR Congo, and then they would read my comments on air at the BBC. And then after university, I was going to Glasgow University for my master's. I passed through Bush House to see this place where I've been sending my comments. My comments were being read on Talkback. And I met people like Jenny Horrocks. And Jenny Horrocks was so wonderful. She used to be the one sending out the pens and the T-shirts and those things. And then 1988-89, the Ghana Black Starlets. I remember Neodate Lamte was a key member of that team. They had a competition in Scotland, Glasgow. And the BBC, instead of sending a reporter from London, which is like the Accra of the UK, to Glasgow, which is like in the north, they said, oh, there was this nice guy,
so they
eager.
Knew you were there.
They knew I was in university in Glasgow. So instead of sending somebody, we will ask him to go and watch the games, and after the games, we would interview him. So they would interview me, and then someone, a producer like Rick Wells, would guide you and say, can you describe everything you saw on one page and read it to us? I want to record you. When I finished Glasgow, I wanted to return to the University of Ghana, which had sponsored me and given me a scholarship to Glasgow University. On my way back, the BBC said, okay, come, we'll train you for 2 weeks. Maybe when you go back to Ghana, you can report or do some work once in a while. 2 weeks became 3 months. 3 months turned into 9. I was made to fill forms to be recruited. But I was feeling bad that University of Ghana morally sponsored me to go do my master's, and I needed to go back. So I went back. And then when I was back in Ghana, the BBC continued and sent me a letter. Here is a plane ticket, work permit, an appointment letter. We still want you to come back and work with us. And that presented its own dilemma. But the long and short of it is, I went back to the BBC, I think, 12th of June, 1991, and started a career.
That was the year I was born, many years back.
I think the key point for any young person watching is this. Take it again that this guy you are listening to or watching here in secondary school was not so good with spoken English.
Right.
And then number two, if by some means he ended up at the BBC being put in front of microphones to speak to millions of people across Africa, then there is some hope over there. And this must go to teachers as well. If somebody is struggling with a subject in Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, the person should not be written off. Parents should not despair. If this person is hardworking, is not lazy, staying in bed, but they have that energy and drive to do well, look beyond the current limitations. Because for me, from Kitasco, speaking very poor English, I could write well and pass exams well. And then ending up at the British Broadcasting Corporation, that is a big deal. Secondly, I actually studied in the University of Ghana computer science, statistics, and mathematics. So I did not set out to be a broadcast journalist. Circumstances can change. I went and did information technology in Glasgow University, and then somehow, I can say reluctantly, ended up in broadcast journalism. But wherever I found myself, I applied myself. I wanted to work hard. I wanted to learn from others around me who were doing better. I wanted to copy from their techniques and improve. I want to constantly improve. If there are lessons for anyone, I hope those lessons come through in these nuggets.
Right. So what prompted your decision to leave the BBC?
I left the BBC 2003 to come to the United Nations in New York because the UN gave me a job. So from 2003, I was working at the United Nations here in New York until 2013, late 2013. I was approached by President Mahama and his team that he would like me to come and help and serve. It was a hard decision. I questioned myself about being able to deliver what he needed, being able to do the job. But when your head of state, your president asks, you do a number of things. You pray hard about it. You don't want to, I personally didn't want to go there just for the sake of a position. I want to be able to make an impact if I should find myself at the presidency.
You felt disappointed at a point?
Disappointed?
Let down to say?
No.
Were you treated fairly?
It's not about being treated fairly, because there are a whole lot of factors when you are around a leader, particularly a president. Disappointment, it's not the real word. I felt honored, I felt humbled, I felt frustrated sometimes. You're talking to me here in New York. You've walked the streets of New York. Some of us are probably stupid or crazy enough to think that every good thing we see in New York is possible in Accra, in Koforidua, in Takoradi, in Kumasi, in Tamale, or in Ho. So you have that burning in you that if we can get under good leadership, every one of us a leader working hard, then we want to make it such a wonderful thing that every good thing you see in a developed world, be it in Japan, be it in Korea, be it in Malaysia, we want the same thing in Ghana.
So you were frustrated because you wanted something done and then your team members weren't towing the same line? You mentioned frustration.
Frustration, I think frustration is part of the deal when you mean well.
The system couldn't, you know, host you or allow you to do your work effectively, then you had to leave. At least that's the impression many of us had.
Yes,
there were frustrated you to the extent that you couldn't hold on like Patrick Ewua and the others did, and you had to then leave. In
a way, you could say that maybe it was it was a strategic retreat in order to be able to come back. But you don't give up if you really, first of all, as a godly.
Right. So you've watched and heard from Ben Dotsei Malor. He has extensively shared his experience with you and has as well advised you. I trust you've taken key points from him that you would also apply as you go through your academic and then professional life.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, welcome back. So that was Ben Dotsei Malor with my colleague Ubodai Torgbor-Ashong telling us how important it is for young folks to work hard and also be smart about their choices.